Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Aurora Smedley podcast, where I speak with you about what the world needs to hear. And in today's episode, I'm going to be speaking about a concept that I call levers in the universe. So this is something that I've actually never heard anybody speak about. This is essentially my own version of manifestation. But I've not heard any of the manifestation gurus talk about this. I've not really heard this from anybody. So I'm very excited to share this with you. So what do I mean by levers in the universe? Well, by levers in the universe, I'm actually alluding to the quote by Archimedes, I believe, where he said, "Give me a big enough lever and I will move the world." And so when I speak to levers in the universe, I'm speaking to these actions that you can take, these levers that you can press, which will fundamentally shift your reality and all of reality. So here is what is up. First of all, what is a lever in the universe and how does one go about finding them? And what are the advantages of being able to find these quote unquote levers? In any moment, there is an infinite number of actions that you can take. There's an infinite number of quote unquote energy buttons that you can press in the universe. So any action that you take is kind of like you pushing on a button in the universe. And that when you push on that button in the universe fundamentally shifts. However, levers in the universe are basically these buttons that you can push that will create disproportionate results. They cause very unusual things to happen so that your entire reality restructures itself. So this is a combination of, like I said, the Archimedes quote of "give me a large enough lever and I can move the world," but it's also united with an idea that I discovered from Gary Keller after reading his book, The One Thing. And in this book, he speaks to a single principle for prioritizing your life. And this principle is asking the question, what is the one thing I can do right now which will make everything else easier or unnecessary? So this principle of levers in the universe is actually kind of like an adaptation of his principle for a more energy-directed perspective on reality, because his perspective on reality is largely based on the physical materialist perspective of I do this action and it creates this result. However, with the perspective on reality that the universe has consciousness, that the universe is spiritual, that the universe is all intimately connected, we can apply this same principle of what is the one thing that you can do which is going to create the greatest amount of results in your life, that is going to multiply the shifts, that is going to restructure your reality. So by asking this question, you can kind of feel around in the energy of the universe in order for you to determine what is going to be the lever, the one thing that is going to shift everything. So this is something that I've made a practice of consistently looking for. What is this lever in the universe, this critical lever through which all of reality will shift and restructure itself around me? And this might still seem like a little bit abstract, so I'm going to create a couple I'm going to describe a few examples for you to understand this concept of lever in the universe. So the first example that I'll point to is that at one point in Austin, Texas, when I was putting together my band, I was having a lot of difficulty finding, looking for, and putting together a band in Austin, Texas. And so even though I was posting on all of the forums, I made a profile on Bandmix, I was messaging people, I was auditioning people, I was still not finding anybody that really seemed like the right fit for my work. So it just felt like I was putting in tons of effort, but not really seeing any results. And so I spoke with two good friends about this. And in that conversation, I had this rather lucid realization that I needed to go back to my former bandmates in Arizona and apologize to them and resolve how our band had split up previously. So after I apologized to them and I came back to Austin, Texas, within 2 weeks, my new bandmate reached out to me and I worked with that bassist for a year and a half. And within 1 month, we had found a drummer as well. So within 1 month after me apologizing to my former band members, my entire new band arrived in less than 30 days without me applying much more effort than what I had been doing previously. So after about a year of searching for bandmates and trying to get things to work in Austin, within 1 month, it all fell into place after I went and apologized to my former band members. And then on top of that, now I have a really wonderful relationship with both of my former band members. They are still like family for me. And so I've kind of released that weight off of my chest as far as any kind of guilt or regret that I had in that situation. So this is one example that I'm speaking to of levers in the universe. You see, there's no practical reason, there is no logical reason why after I show up and apologize to my band members that I receive my new band members, right? But what this is pointing to is that all of the universe has consciousness, all of the universe is connected. And so when you resolve things in one side of the universe, in one corner of the universe, it shifts all of the universe. So this is kind of leading to what I'm pointing towards as my concept of levers in the universe. I'm going to create another example for you of levers in the universe as well. And that is that immediately after I released my first album, on the exact day that I released my album, I got a message from my apartment complex saying that I had to move out. So I got a 30-day notice from my complex that I had to move out immediately on the exact same day that I released my album. At the time, this really stressed me out. I was really upset. There had been some kind of miscommunication. I tried to resolve it on the managerial level. It didn't get resolved. I ultimately had to move out. But then it ended up that I had some friends that were actually also required to leave for different reasons. They were having a baby, so they were going to go back to live with his family. Because of that, I ended up adopting their apartment, and it turns out that it was a bigger and nicer, more awesome apartment than I already had. So essentially, what it felt like on a universal level was that I had just graduated from one level to another. And because I had graduated, I was getting kicked into an apartment that was even better for me than my previous situation was. So by completing the action of releasing my album, by completing that process, which seemed essential on a karmic level, I was kicked to my next level in my living situation as well. Another example of this phenomenon is that I randomly, at the beginning of last year, felt drawn to motorcycling, even though I had not really had that on the radar in the past many years. But then I decided to go to MotoGP in Austin to watch the motorcycle race. And when I went there, I was so excited. I was so excited about the motorcycles. It looked so fun. I was so hype. I was so stoked about all of the motorcycle stuff that I went home that evening and looked at getting a motorcycle. Turns out that there was a motorcycle for sale that was probably less than half of what the actual value was. So it probably could have been sold to me for $3,000, $5,000. I got the motorcycle for $1,600. And then I was gifted a bunch of equipment for free from the motorcycle community. So basically I got my motorcycle and I got geared up for way less than I would have if I just bought it without help from the universe. So what am I pointing to with all of this? Well, first of all, I am pointing to the concept of all of the universe is connected, all of the universe is intertwined. And so basically actions that you take on one corner of the universe are going to fundamentally shift the universe and how it responds to you, and what you are given by the universe ultimately. The second thing that I want to point to is that when you take an action that resolves karma, that closes a loop karmically, this frees up energy and allows the universe to shift in the reality around you. So basically, when you close a karmic loop, such as what I did with my band members, this shifts your relationship to the rest of the reality. The next thing that I want to point to as far as patterns in these stories is a high level of excitement, genuine enthusiasm for something also shifts the universe and increases the rapidity in which something manifests in your life. And finally, I also want to point to, I do feel that there's something to be said for when you complete something that brings you to another level, the universe will promote you. The universe will graduate you. The universe will kick you to your next level. So what are really the advantages of the levers in the universe? Well, by connecting with the levers in the universe, by finding these levers in the universe, you allow the universe to direct your life from a soulful perspective rather than from a head-directed perspective. Because we humans like to think that we're really smart and that we know what the universe wants for us. But actually, the universe, in its incredible wisdom, knows better for what we ought to be doing with our lives than we do. And so by looking for these levers in the universe, you help multiply the magic, you help multiply the universe's input into your life rather than you going at things purely from a mechanistic, purely from a rationalist perspective. And while there are advantages to going from the rationalist perspective, and of course, while it is necessary to take action, to plan, to take directed movement in this physical reality, you also need to recognize that there is also input that you can take on a quote unquote spiritual or energetic level, which will cause an outcome to manifest. So I define levers in the universe as actions that you can take which will create disproportionate results in the universe. But in order for you to actually hit those levers, you need to be kind of detached from the actual outcome and the results of those actions. Because if you become too attached to manifesting a certain thing, you can actually kind of restrict and strangle the universe a little bit from being able to manifest the thing that is truly for you. Because when we apply our rational mind is highly limiting relative to the ultimate unlimited possibilities that are actually available to us through universal intervention. And so basically, if you are too attached to what the ultimate outcome is, you are actually preventing the universe from coming in and actually directing your life in the way that it needs to direct your life. So this is the first thing that you need to understand in looking for these levers in the universe. The next thing that I'm going to point out with levers in the universe is that there's some critical types of levers in the universe. I'd say the first type of lever is a karmic resolution. When you restore and resolve bad blood, any kind of guilt, shame, distance, miscommunication, any kind of negative energy that you have towards anyone, be that judgment, be that hatred, be that anger, resentment, any of this that you resolve with regards to externally with other people or internally with yourself is going to shift how the universe responds to you, because any negative feeling that you have towards anything is actually your negative feeling towards yourself, because all of the universe is united. Your internal relationship with yourself is connected to negative experiences externally as well. So when you resolve resentment that you feel with anybody externally, you're also resolving that internally. And so then when you resolve these negative things karmically, then it frees up energy to allow the universe to come support you. The next kind of lever in the universe is going to be what I refer to as completion. So completion means that you are getting taken to the next level because of you finishing something. So for example, me finishing my album, or me finishing this podcast, or me graduating from some kind of university, for example. Anytime that you bring something to completion, you bring a project to completion, especially if that project is related to your soul path, is going to kick you to the next level in your spiritual journey. So when you complete something that is critical to your soul's growth, this is going to kick you to the next level of the soul video game. So when your soul completes something relevant to its soul path, then you will be kicked to the next level of your soul video game. The next type of lever in the universe is a paradigm shift or an identity shift. So when you do something that expands your soul's identity into a greater perspective on what it is, then this is also going to kick your soul to the next level. So this would be, for example, when I became a motorcyclist. This ended up bringing all sorts of blessings into my life that I didn't expect. Friendships, experiences, happiness. It brought my level of fulfillment way up beyond what I expected from just riding a vehicle, right? Being able to drive a vehicle, like who cares, right? But that actually massively increased my level of fulfillment and happiness, and also allowed my soul to progress in a way that I wasn't anticipating. So these are kind of like the three critical types of levers in the universe that I've noticed. The first being the resolution of a karmic loop. When you close a karmic loop, when you ask for forgiveness, when you resolve something on a karmic level, this frees up energy of the universe to shift in your favor. The next is completion of an essential soul level. When you complete a critical soul task, the universe will kick you to the next level almost immediately. Then the next thing that I'm going to point to is expanding your soul's paradigm. So when you take your soul to the next level in some way, you do something that is necessary to expand your soul's identity, then this is something that is also going to manifest things rapidly in your life. So these are the three different types of levers in the universe that I've discovered. And I'm also going to point out that immense amounts of enthusiasm and excitement cause things to move more quickly in the universe. With the motorcycling, I was so excited. I was so enthusiastic. I took action so quickly that things manifested extremely quickly for me. In April, I got the motorcycle, and 3 months later, I was riding on a racing track with that motorcycle. So from watching MotoGP in April to being on a motorcycle track a couple months later, I made it happen pretty quickly. So now I've talked about what these levers in the universe are, what they do. Finally, I'm going to point out what the actual value of these are. I've actually hinted at it a little bit already, but I think that what I've discovered is that by finding these levers in the universe, you will begin to live a life that has greater fulfillment in it. Greater fulfillment, greater magic. You have a sense of the unity of all of reality. And this is when you just start to feel more connected with your soul and your soul's path. Because I think people think that happiness is about achieving certain checkboxes, but in my experience, that's not true. I think happiness derives from being connected to the magic of life itself. So when you are connected with that magic, when you are connected with that essential experience of being alive, that's when you increase your level of happiness and of fulfillment. Finding these levers in the universe allows you to, with high leverage and precision, find the areas of your life that are going to generate the most happiness, the most fulfillment, the most advancement and growth for your soul. Because the growth that is for your soul is not the same as the growth that is for any other person's soul. Any other person's soul does not need the same things that you do. Any other person's soul path is not going to look like yours. So by finding these levers, you're finding these critical points that are going to develop your soul towards what your soul needs to become. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that this has been helpful. This is a topic that I find very interesting, and I look forward to your thoughts and questions on this. If you find this content valuable, I encourage you to share this with somebody that you know, and I look forward to seeing you in the next podcast.